Hello, and welcome to Shades of Pleasure, a podcast celebrating pleasure, sexuality, and the vibrant, inclusive spectrum of love, gender, and relationships. I'm your host, Mo, and with me are my co-hosts, Melissa, Wayne, and Kelly. And together we hope to dismantle tropes that no longer suit us and change the narrative towards more authentic living.
Listen, if we're talking about swinging, I'll go ahead and tell you, as far as stigmas are concerned, just the term swinging kind of brings up a stigma for me. Like, I grew up in this small town, and I feel like you'd hear these rumors about how the neighbors were swinging, and they would talk about parties where people were like putting their keys in a bowl and swapping to figure out who's going to be with who. And just this whole, I still, as an adult who's sex positive and works in this field, I hear swinging and it still conjures up those sort of negative connotations for me. So, you know.
Yeah, there's actually a book circulating the internet right now about that, and people are twisting it. They say, "Oh, look what parents are teaching their kids right now," because it's just a kid's book talking about swinging, and it's
Really?
yeah, it's literally about it shows you can go on the internet, you can see it. It's flipping the pages. They got it, and the kids are telling their other friends about how the parents in a swing group, and in their mind they swinging on swings, but and so forth. And yeah, they tell me, oh, and they do this thing where they put these keys everybody put their keys in the bowl when they come over. So it's actually pretty funny. I saw it 3 times now pop up on social media
Wow.
in the past week. Yeah.
I'm looking it up right now. Kid book on swinging.
Yeah.
Wait, so Kelly, so I'm so curious, what are some of the like negative, the stigmas that you've
I mean,
heard?
it was the same as if, look, it's the same as if you got caught finding your grandfather's Playboy and looking at it. Like, you just sort of snickered about it and you talked about it and you knew it was weird, you knew it was sexual, but you didn't know what that meant. But
Mhm.
it was something that you were drawn to, but you weren't supposed to be drawn to. So you could only talk to certain friends about it. Whatever that is,
Mm.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I share my thoughts? I've always assumed, at least like, because, I think growing up in the sort of like queer community, swinging always just felt like what straight couples do, right? It was their version of, sex parties and things like that. Like, it always felt really hetero to me,
mhm.
Yeah.
from my experience. And even though as I got older and started, like doing this work and like dismantling it for others, I started dismantling it for myself. Um, because we were kind of doing the same thing, right? I mean, we weren't going to a party and dropping our keys in a bowl, but there was a lot of similar kind of activity that was happening. So, um, like, like sex clubs and things like that in San Francisco. Yeah, there were guys in leather and, women walking around with dildos, but it was a similar concept,
Mhm.
right? So the judgment was more about it being heterosexual than anything else,
Mhm.
if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, it really, I agree with that. And like even the bisexual women, and there's oddly, strangely, still somehow like in a hetero way, if that makes sense. It
Mm.
was like, I don't know how to explain that. Like, yes, they were bisexual, but a lot of it was, in my experience,
Performative.
performative.
Yeah.
A lot of it,
Mm.
it was like, I don't know, just kind of the thing that you do. I don't know how many of them really were enjoying it, including myself at the time, in certain ways. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's interesting. But I love to hear all the perspectives of swinging. And I know even me, even and having like started out in the swinging community, having like deep roots in that swinging community, even sometimes hearing the word swinger, I can kind of like almost cringe a little bit, like, it's like, you don't want anybody to call you a swinger. Yeah, but I have so much love and respect for the community as well too. And yeah, I have so much to say about it. But
Yeah, no, to Melissa's point, and to everybody's point here, like, yeah, it's definitely negative connotation associated with swinging. I remember when I first thought about swinging, I thought like it was gonna be these old people at the club like that the kind of that you see in like these old 70s movies, whatever. So it was like, oh man, I'm not gonna be attracted to anybody in these spaces, and so. And again, me and Melissa come from the swing community. We were in there pretty heavy for years at 21, starting 21 years ago. But what I did realize is a couple of things, and some of the things I'm about to say, I've been saying this a lot recently, I feel like could be a little bit, controversial or not a popular opinion, and I'll explain in a second. But yeah, so for one, we would go to these spaces, and the truth is, a lot of these swing clubs are white centered. It's not a lot of
Mhm.
people of color in these spaces,
Mhm.
and so that already is kind of can be intimidating when you go in as a person of color to these spaces, already feeling vulnerable to even go in these spaces and nervous and afraid. And then you walk in and you see nobody looks like you, and then it seems like people are cliquish and they don't really talk to you. And then if they do talk to you, it's from a fetish size kind of way, and
Yeah.
so you have that going. And so it's like, you don't know who is authentic and who is not, what they're approaching for or not. And so now the part that I think is, that I think that people can push back on is that for me personally, I feel as though swing community is more monogamish than not. I feel
Mm.
like because it's definitely couple oriented and all the
Couple centric.
yeah, yes, couple centric, yeah, and all the couples they do everything together. Like they have to be in the same room together. They have to give permission. Like if the opposite sex approaches the couple, they have to talk to the same sex within that couple, or is deemed as disrespectful. So they have, and then so it's so many
couple
these.
centered and like really like um protecting the relationship,
Yes,
you know what I
yes,
mean?
yes,
Like, yeah.
yes, definitely. And so I kind of have a lot of empathy for single women in the community, which they call unicorns. I have a lot of empathy for them because I think that a lot of times single women in the community, they come into these spaces and they want to connect with a couple, and a lot of times these couples probably really shouldn't be engaging with a single woman because they just aren't prepared to, they aren't ready to, and then it ends up that the woman ends up being collateral damage and being like disregarded and kind of not cared for. And I see that happen a lot and often. And that's why I see a lot of these posts when people they call them unicorn hunters when they're you sing searching for single women. A lot of people kind of like, yeah, that's not the space for that. You don't come here with that because they understand how that is looked at and how these women are treated within these spaces like this. And so again, for me, I just feel like I love it because it's like a starting point, right? It's a
Mhm.
great starting point for couples who are trying to get out and open up their relationship a bit and trying to be more adventurous and exploratory. So I think it's a great space for that. And what ends up happening though is that usually a switch happens within one of the people within the couple, if not both. And when that switch happens, it can be problematic within the couple because somebody starts to outgrow the idea of just casual sex. They want more of a connection, which is frowned upon within the swing community. There's supposed to be no emotions when having sex. It's supposed to be all emotionless sex, you
Mhm.
know. And so so now that goes into a whole nother category, which we could talk about another day. But yeah, but I've seen it a lot, even with the couples I work with. They start out as swinging and they like, oh, I didn't ask to be poly. I didn't want to open up a relationship. This was fun for me. This was safe for me, in
Mhm.
this way. And it's like, yeah, I hear you, but how long did you think that was going to be sustainable? How long do you actually think you could have stayed in that space? Because we change. We not stay the same. But again, I like the swing community because I do believe that it's a great starting point for people.
Like a gateway for
Yeah,
couples,
a
people that are
gateway for
already in a
couples.
couple. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. And I wanted to add that it's also referred to as the lifestyle.
yes.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about that a little bit? Because I don't really know why they call it that. Do you?
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I just know that when I hear that, I always say that people like, especially couples that I work with, I'm like, I hear you. You say it's a lifestyle. Like hey, we're going to enter the lifestyle. We do lifestyle events, and I say I don't believe it's a lifestyle. I believe that's who you are at this point, and it's just easy. It's just a way to take away from to kind of be like, oh yeah, that's just a thing we do, and it's not really a thing you do. It's who you are at this point now because you're agreeing to this and you're willingly going into it to some extent. And so, but yeah,
Mhm.
whenever I hear lifestyle, I just kind of think like, because we used to hear it a lot back in the day, and I used to be like, we were part of it, like, yeah, the lifestyle, yeah, it's lifestyle. But then I thought about it, I was like, man, we're not lifestyle. This is who we are. This is our lives. Like,
Yeah, it kind of like downplays the importance
Yeah.
of your identity, right? When
Right.
yes,
you use that
yeah,
word.
It
Yeah.
compartmentalizes and like, yeah, I agree. I don't really know the actual origins and I'd be curious to look it up, but same, I think we've used it and have heard it used in that same way where it's like that thing that we do, you know what I mean? And this is the part of our lives that we
Mhm.
like is separate from our regular, because we would do that, we would say that too,
yes,
right? Lifestyle and then our regular life or our regular friends or whatever. And that
Our
was just
lifestyle friends versus our
our
regular
lifestyle
friends.
friends versus our
yes,
And
regular friends or our vanilla friends, you know. So
yeah,
but I know lifestyle also
normies.
is swinging isn't the only community that uses lifestyle. I know that that's
Oh,
used in
okay.
other communities as well too, including kink and things like that.
yes, it is, yes,
But yeah, in short, swinging often emphasizes sexual connections, you know, and may or may not include more intimacy, more emotional intimacy. So we've talked about it from our experiences of how we've experienced like there not being that much of an emotional connection or focus or emphasis or relationships. Not to say that it can't though.
right.
But usually people are kind of more interested in sex.
Yeah. At
At
the
least
same time,
initially, at least
At least
initially,
initially,
until,
yeah.
until emotions come into play for sure.
and I was about to say that, and I think that's not talked about enough in the swing community about the
Mhm.
emotions that come up. I think that one time we were having a conversation with our friends. We were all going away for a weekend with our lifestyle friends, and we went away to a cabin, and we just got into a discussion, and it was so cool because somebody said, "Hey, Wayne," and they did something that's usually not done. They were like, "Hey, Wayne, one time you were hanging out with this one woman, and I felt jealous," and everybody was like,
Mhm.
"Oh."
That's awesome.
She's partner. She has a husband. So it was like, oh, like that's not what we talk about here. But when she said it, I was like, oh wow. And it hit me. I was like, man, I felt jealous in a lifestyle as well before. Like I remember you were hanging out with somebody, and I was like, man, why is she hanging out with him and not me? Like, so it
Mhm.
was that just recognizing that we do have feelings and emotions. They just aren't talked about, and we're supposed to just push them down and hide them. But in reality, we are human. And so we have emotions
Gotta
associated.
start a new movement, Wayne. The men's emotion movement within the swinger community.
Right, yeah, yeah.
I think that's a good segue into, I'm going to jump around a little bit, but talking about compersion, which I
Yeah,
think is a word that we use a lot in non-monogamy, but may not be used outside of non-monogamy as much. Um, and it's considered the opposite of jealousy, but I like to think that it can exist at the same time as jealousy. And basically, the definition is happiness or joy, experiencing like happiness or joy when you witness the happiness and joy of your partner or other people like that are getting together and experiencing these euphoric feelings, and you can sort of like recognize that that's what they're feeling. It's not to say that you're not going to feel jealous. You could have those feelings simultaneously, but I talk about compersion a lot with clients that are just embarking, like just starting out
mm,
in some form of non-monogamy. Because that's, I think, one of the reasons to do it
yeah,
is to watch your partner or your partners flourish, right? In this new and profound way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've had clients that when they come in and they feel bad because they don't feel compersion for their partner, and I tell them, I say, I try to help them out by saying, like we're all striving to have compersion. That's what that's what we're working towards. We may never even get there, but as long as we're constantly working towards that feeling of compersion, we're on the right track. As long as our intention is honest, and that's what, and we really want to get there. And I think that, like, I know that I constantly strive to have compersion.
It's something I aspire to as well, but I don't know. I don't know. I think it's okay to not. I think it's okay. I don't know. What do you guys think? Like I don't it's like if you don't ever get there, that's fine. Like if you don't, if you're not striving for compersion, I think it's fine. I think feeling neutral or not feeling good about something, but you're like aware of it and you're talking about it and you're working through that. I think that's fine too.
I personally think that for me, the way that I've experienced it is that it comes from the jealousy. The jealousy exists because of the FOMO, like the fear of missing out. And
Yeah.
the fear of missing out is really like, look at them. They're like doing the thing, or look at her, or look at him, like a partner of mine. Like, I want what they're having. So there is a tinge, like jealousy is like the flip side of compersion, because you're jealous because you know that's a good thing that's going on, right? I don't know. That's how I've experienced compersion. And if you can tap into that, like, and to me, it's really about being honest about why you're jealous, like what's coming up for you within that jealousy. And it's that, like, well, I think I'm just bummed that it's not me.
Yes, I like
And
that.
that's the compersion. Like if you're bummed that it's not you, you can see that your partner is enjoying it and loving it. And there is probably a part of you that feels good for them if you can tap into it, you know?
It-
Uh,
it's so great to
Kelly
even.
wants to speak.
Oh, go ahead, Kelly. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying it's so great that you even say that because it made me think about like it almost comes back to like if I'm doing something, well, like it can feel really good to me and I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I feel good about it. I love what I'm doing. But then let's say if Melissa were to do that, and I'd be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, nah, I'm not okay with it. Like I'm okay for it for me, but I'm not okay for it for you.
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful and lovely, but I don't think that's always how people experience jealousy. I think for a lot of people when they experience jealousy, it's it's this fear of loss. It's this fear that something's going to be taken away, or somebody else is getting what you want, or is going to take from you what you already have. And that's a hard place for jealousy to come from. But yeah, I do think there's this other beautiful place, like Mo's describing it. But yeah, I don't know that jealousy is always that. I don't know that jealousy is always just, oh, I see this beautiful thing and I wish I had it. I think something's going to be taken away from me. This is going to hurt. I'm about to lose something. I think it could be that. And that's hard for folks. And I think that's very much something that people experience when they have an open relationship in one way or another.
I think that's fair and true. Like jealousy comes up for us for different reasons, right? It could be envy, which is more what I'm talking about. I guess the FOMO is the envy. And the jealousy is a threat, right? The
Yeah.
threat of what is this person? Are they going to take my person from me?
Or what do they have that I don't have? Or
Yeah. The
some
fear of abandonment and things like
yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And you're right, and it could be from all those places, right? Just even it could be from like I talk about this one, it could be from a space of just self. Like if you aren't feeling good, if you're feeling down, you don't feel good about yourself for whatever reason, then all those things come up again. The same things, the same jealousy comes up because you feel as though you aren't that they're enjoying with somebody else, or you don't have that with somebody else that is enjoying, so all those things can be, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool.
It's a good segue to, I think, new relationship energy, because I think that's a
A great one. Yeah, a
areas
good
when this shit
segue.
really comes up. Like,
I was about to say
Relationship
the
energy
same
is
thing,
so
Melissa.
scary.
I love your Mo that you have it. You kept it simple. You were like oxytocin and dopamine. This is good
All right, tell
description.
us what NRE is, Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, it's the feeling, it's the experience that you get, like
So what is
Mo
NRE
said,
first?
oxytocin. Oh,
Literally,
new
what is
relationship energy, new relationship energies. That's what it stands for. So it's that experience, that feeling of you're so focused, you're just obsessed, you're like constantly thinking about this person, you're spending a lot of time with them, and all of your focus, attention, and energy is towards this person or people that you're with. And you can act a little out of character sometimes. It can be intense feelings and energy. And it can be really fun and it can feel really good. And also sometimes it can be really distracting and disruptive to your life and to your, to your relationship and your routines and all of that good stuff. I think that, but yeah, it's those really good feelings that happen when at the beginning of a new connection and in a relationship. Um, and I think if we fight it, it might be even harder. I like to try to lean into it a little bit, and I think awareness is a big help in it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we tend to forget what new relationship energy feels like when we see our partner going through it because we get so afraid and so scared, like, oh my God, they're gonna leave us, as if we didn't experience that, and also that to that point, we get scared because we see our partner acting with somebody else like they did with us. And that can be hella scary because like, oh no, they're gonna definitely leave me because look, they care about this person as much as they did about me or more. And really, it's just that it's new. Like you can't even. It's so hard to compare something new to something that you've already had. Like it's not even fair to compare the two. Like and because that new energy isn't something that lasts forever. But yeah, it's going. Let it, like you just said, let it take its course. Right. If it be a week, 2 weeks, a month,
Mhm.
just
2 years, no, I was kidding, like, anywhere from
yeah, yeah,
some weeks
Yeah,
to
yeah, like 6
yeah,
more or
months,
less.
3 years is
yeah,
like
yeah.
NRE can last.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, nowadays with this social media movement, I think NRE lasts a couple weeks at most. They moved on to the next one. Like, oh, that's over.
That's funny. I think also like, this is a good reminder when people are just embarking on this journey of opening up or um, to have these conversations with your partner before you develop new NRE so that you can set some parameters in place and some guidelines like, hey, when NRE happens, we've got to establish some sort of like, I don't know, it can be a communication, it can be some sort of like check-in process or something that lets the other partners know that, just a reminder that this isn't mean, I'm moving on from you or anything, because that's the default monogamous, but it might be difficult and we should, set times for check-ins, or what do you think you'll need around that? I don't know. Front loading it before it happens is what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And opportunities for connection between you two. So
Yeah.
I think that really helps too, is,
Yeah.
keeping that flow of connection going, letting the other person, like you said, know that you're still important to me. I haven't forgotten about you.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
still good.
Which then turns into the next category should be higher.
I was just thinking that. I was like, we should definitely talk about hierarchy, because I almost said you should talk about this with your primary partner, but I didn't want to, like assume everyone has a primary partner,
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
and wanted to kind of hear from Melissa and Wayne, like, how do you feel about the hierarchy,
Yeah.
having
Yeah,
been married for so
yeah,
long?
when I saw that we was gonna talk about hierarchical polyamory, I was like, okay, this kind of fits in what we were just talking about because again, in relationships, we all want to feel special. We all want to feel special with our partner, and we want to feel like when something makes us feel uncomfortable or whatever, we can kind of like have the opportunity, or in some cases call it veto, power to kind of, shut things down. I think that, yeah, how I look at it is that it goes back to couples privilege for me, to where the couple is the one who is like, if it doesn't fit within what we have, then, we probably we can easily discard it, regardless of the person who is coming in or the person being affected, because we are trying to protect the relationship. It's all about protecting the relationship. And so when I think about that's kind of what comes up for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, my thoughts, I mean, from my experience, I remember having jumped back and forth between, ideologies of upholding like this hierarchy in my relationship with Wayne, and, protecting our relationship, and, essentially the hierarchy meaning that like there's this priority, or prioritizing,
Yeah.
of our relationship. over others or whatnot, or that priority. And then also like totally not wanting that and the bouncing back and forth. I think I've settled somewhere in the middle. It's like the both and, it's I think being important to recognize the I guess the natural hierarchy energy or
Yeah.
presence that is there because we've been together for 20 years and we have a lot that we're responsible for together and that yeah, we that is included and involved in our relationship and our lives together. And so there is a little bit of that prioritizing. I think being upfront with people about that, letting them know, like front loading, communicating, and including them in some kind of way could be really helpful. And also because of our past experiences too, really making sure that people are feeling, that they're considered in it, regardless of our history and whatnot, that they're considered, that we're treating them, like you said earlier, like human beings, and
Yeah.
we're caring for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good segue into veto power, which Wayne kind of mentioned, that we see a lot from couples, right? Specifically where one partner, because they've been together longer and they have this longer history together, they hold this power of saying no, no to something, even though agreement around something might already exist. And thereby it doesn't really take the secondary partners, tertiary partners into consideration. They don't get a say in it, which yields a sort of power, a couple privilege, a power dynamic that the couple gets to hold. Why non-hierarchical, hierarchical polyamory has become so important, such an important topic these days.
Yes, yeah.
I'm so curious how Mo and Kelly, how you have worked with your clients around veto power. If you have, like, I think this one is always been challenging for me, the idea and the practice of veto power, and curious to hear your perspectives on that.
I kind of let them lead, but I definitely, it's something that I tell them I have a hard time knowing, and I'm not really sure how to lead them. So I don't try to lead them. I try to do some psychoeducation around it and then let them decide what's correct for them. And we sort of talk about where the holes are in that theory and where where the pros and cons are in it, but I don't try to lead it one way or another. I just try to educate it.
I love that.
Yeah, I've definitely psychoed, educating clients about why it's a problematic, because and I usually lean into it doesn't really consider the other partners. Like the day you decided to open up your relationship and the day you decided, to bring other partners into your life, you no longer are the couple anymore, right? Like veto power is harmful because you decided to open the door and now you're basically like, it's like I use the example of like adopting a child or adopting a pet. Like you can't take it back. You can't take a child back after you've adopted it. Like, sure, some people do, and some people take pets back, but it's akin to the same thing, right? You're basically saying like, well, this is too hard for me. I can't do it anymore. And you're yielding some power, that the other person that's new to your relationship, that's new into your scene, doesn't really have the power to say, like they're getting the shaft, they're getting kicked out, they're getting the door shut in their face. And I just let them know, like this is an actual term in the non-monogamous community, and and this is for people that are kind of new to it. And you'll get a lot of defensiveness around it, because they don't want to be considered that they're doing veto power, right? They don't want to look at it that way. They're like, no, this is something that we have to handle as a couple. And it's like, you're still yielding veto power, right? You're still saying, we got to close up. And I've known lots of couples to do it. We've got to close our relationship because we encountered such and such problems. And now in order to deal with those problems, we need to, be this sort of like monogamous. But to me, it all sort of like apes that monogamous mindset that we just can't seem to break out of, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. And which takes me back to which I wish I forgot to mention that, like with swinging, there's a lot of rules in swinging. Like a lot of couples the majority of couples in swinging world have rules. And, a lot of times, like when you talk about poly, it's more about boundaries than it is rules. But in swing community, it's more about rules. So you just made me think about that, which then takes me to the idea of monogamish, to where
Wait, before we go to monogamish, I actually had a couple things I wanted to say that I feel are important to say.
okay.
Also, Kelly, I don't know if I felt like you wanted to jump in and say something too, because I wanted to hear what you were going to say.
There is. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I do feel like I love this new term that Mo and I were together when we heard it recently. And I think that this is a good, you've got primary, secondary, tertiary, but also this term that people are using now of anchor partner. And I feel like anchor partner kind of pushes back a little bit on the veto thing. And I'm guessing that, how Mo was saying how veto power can be problematic, and how I'm saying I don't necessarily lead my clients into it, but I educate them around it. I'm so happy now to have anchor partner in my back pocket, because I feel like that's a good sort of bridge to those two things. It isn't so black or white. I feel like that's sort of swimming in the gray, that kind of middle area.
Yeah, I'm going to read you the definition of anchor partner because I just Googled it.
Yeah.
A significant long-term partner in a polyamorous or non-monogamous relationship who provides emotional support and a sense of security. Anchor partners can be romantic or sexual, cohabitate, or live separately. They are often considered a central figure in the person's life, like a rock or anchor to lean on. Anchor partners can be primary partners, but they don't have to be, and it is possible to have more than one.
I love that.
Yeah. So funny. I was just actually recently asked about possibly being someone's anchor partner.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What's so funny is I would
Love that.
automatically assume, my assumption, and this just tells you how problematic, like I haven't broken out of it either. I would just assume that you and Melissa were each other's anchor. Like I would think that would just be unquestionable. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that they just blew that out of the water for me, because I'm, just as problematic in my thinking.
That's why I love this breaking down the definition. Thank you for sharing that, because yeah, I think that, like you said, Mo, there's this, Kelly, assumption that, well, one, again, prioritizing not just couples, but also married couples, right? And so this assumption that your married partner is automatically your anchor partner. Well, I do consider Wayne my anchor partner, by the way. And oh,
No,
she
no,
gonna
no,
say, oh,
no.
I was like, I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say something. I
You
do
can have
consider,
more than one.
yeah, but you can
Yeah.
have, I love that you can have more than one, and it doesn't have to be the person that you're married with or cohabitating with or whatever. Like I just really, really love the fluidity and the openness around that. Yeah,
By the way,
amazing.
oh, go
Go ahead.
ahead. I consider you my lifetime partner.
I
Yeah.
consider you lots of different things,
Yeah.
actually. There's
Heard
a
it here
whole list
first, people.
of,
You heard it here first.
yeah, life partner, anchor partner, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
You're
right.
like, you hit them all. But what I wanted to say about the veto power thing is that like I mentioned, it's has been a difficult concept for me, practice and all that good stuff. We've experienced it in all the different ways. And I don't necessarily like it, because I have seen, experienced the impact that it has on people, on people who were have involved in our relationship, and also ourselves. You know what I mean? The person who has to end that relationship, within the primary relationship or whatnot, that it can be really painful for them too. So as much as I don't really like it, when I was listening to you talk, when I was like, dang, oh, I really feel for the people out there, for the couples, because like you said, once you open up, you are no longer like centering the couple. And I had so much empathy for all the couples who are going through it right now because it's like, whoa, that's a lot of grief. That is a huge wake-up call and a huge shift from your relationship, especially if you've been monogamous for a long time. So it is not easy. It is not easy. And I offer a lot of, grace and empathy and compassion
Yeah.
for those who are experiencing it and feel it's important for people to be witnessed in it and to, to have support in that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
It,
gonna change your relationship. Like that's what I
Absolutely.
tell my couples that are thinking about it and haven't done it yet. Because I want them to be mindful about this process. And so many people aren't. It's really, really difficult. Like we talked about this in the beginning, like, striving to be ethical and consensual is something that we strive for, but so many people open the door right open and you make mistakes along the way, and that's going to happen, and that is okay. 100%
I feel
that's
like I
okay.
preach this. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I
go for it. Go for
preach
it, Kelly.
this. I feel like I need to say it every time. We cannot promise how we're going to feel. We can only promise how we're going to try to behave.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because,
yeah,
I had some people I was working with, and one of them said, I don't mind them doing this just as long as they're not dating them, just as long as it's physical. I'm like, that there's an implied promise that they're not going to have feelings when you say that. And even that implied promise of they're not going to have feelings, we just can't promise how we're going to feel. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like you always say, Mo, you can't just close it. They think, okay, well, if it's not working, we'll just close it. Well, when you close it, there are other people involved, there are other feelings involved, there are other things. And so, yeah, it happens. And so I think it's good when people think about it on the front end and get help with it on the front end, as opposed to kicking the barn doors open and then come crying for help because it's gotten a shit show.
And it's true, and I'll be like, your relationship is open now. Let's not shut the door, and let's figure out how to create some boundaries so that you two can feel better. But let's not close the door, because that, I don't know if I can articulate it, because I know we're also coming close to the end, but I feel like closing the door is going to be more harmful to your relationship than most people realize.
yeah,
Once you open up and you've embarked on this expansive journey of transformation and expansion, like, to go back, it's like going back to your childhood bedroom and sleeping in your childhood bed. You just won't fit in there anymore.
yeah.
Mm.
So to the point earlier about lifestyle, that's how I was. So that's why I don't like the term myself lifestyle, because again, once you open that door up, that's not a lifestyle. There's no longer a lifestyle. That is what you've chosen this new path now. You are in a different relationship than you were before you opened up the relationship. So now it's
Now it's
different.
a journey, not a
Yes,
lifestyle, right?
yes,
Mm.
yes. Yeah, and we actually touched on that this past weekend. It's like, yes, like you opened up the door. Like
Yeah.
you're in a different relationship than you were. Like we can mourn the old relationship, and now let's explore this new relationship, and what does it look like now?
But I hope people aren't feeling like panicky and scared and all anxious now that they're hearing like, oh no, once I open it up, like that's it, because I don't
You're
want
gonna
people,
love it. You're gonna love it
yeah,
when
I
you
don't
open
you
it.
Right, right, right. I'm with you. I'm with you, Mo.
Good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
worry, you're gonna love it, but it's not gonna necessarily be
it's
easy.
not going to be easy.
Yeah.
There may be some pain involved, but you almost like can't go back. Like you
Right.
said, it's just like you don't, or it's just going to look different.
It
Yeah.
causes it causes so much. It causes a lot of resentment. A lot of resentment that is hard to undo once it's
Yeah.
there.
I think even people who go back to monogamy, if they do, I don't know, very few, but you're still not going to be the same.
You're not.
Right, that's what you
Still not
mean,
gonna
right,
be the
Wayne? If
same.
they go back to monogamy, they're gonna be
Yeah.
resentful. Is that,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because it's like you get a taste of freedom, or freedom. I'm using the word freedom, but that's basically what it is. Because monogamy is it's a cage.
It's almost like a liberation, right? You're almost liberating yourself.
It's a liberation. That's a better word. Thanks, Wayne. Yeah. Yeah. It's a liberation, and then to de-liberate yourself. Um, and I've had couples close their relationship for a short period of time for a purpose, and then slowly start to open it up, because you do learn in the process. So and every couple gets to decide what they want.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stop there because I looked at the clock and I was like, well, I could get into couple privilege, but maybe it's
I
We
have
gotta close it up, y'all. We gotta.
okay. Real quick,
Don't
I have to tell
don't
this
get me
one
started
story.
on that one.
Yeah, this one story is real quick. So at one point, Melissa, I remember we were in the kitchen and we were going through it and we were in it. Oh my gosh. And she was like, you know what? Uh, let's go back to monogamy. Let's just be monogamous again. Right. And as she said it, she thought about it. And she's like, you know what? Yeah, that's not gonna work. Like she's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't do that. I can't go backwards. Like almost instantaneous as she said, it's like, you know what? Yeah, let's just go back to monogamy. Let's just be monogamous. She's like, you know what? Yeah, I can't do it. Like, yeah,
I think I can see where it would be like, let's go back to that thing that's one safe and also the one thing that gives you privilege in this culture. The minute you open up your relationship, you are now, and I tell this to a lot of the cisgendered white men that are in it, like so many of them come in and they're not open about it because it knocks them down a step from privilege, right? Privilege is being white, being male, and having a wife and kids that kind of like uphold your place here in society as a man. And the minute you're not that anymore, it knocks you down a level from that status. So I talk about that a lot with my male clients who are like, no one knows that I'm non-monogamous, but yet your wife is out and queer and everyone knows. That's a whole topic for me.
yeah, it is. And that used to be me, about what 12 years ago, 15 years ago. That was me. I was cool with people knowing that Melissa would engage with women, but I was not okay with people knowing that Melissa was engaging with men because what it would make me look like and how I would be viewed.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was hella scary. Yeah.
Wow. I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, that's good.
Going on the list.
Well, thanks
All right, I
for
appreciate
opening
you.
us up, Kelly, in this conversation.
Yes.
What's that?
No, I was just saying, thanks for opening up the conversation. I love the way that you open it up for us.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that you dived right in and I didn't have to do an intro.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. Yeah.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah,
Yes,
see you
next
next
week.
week.
Yeah, I guess
Bye.
part three of terms. Yeah, terminology.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, part 3 of terms.
Yes.
Bye, y'all.
All right,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Shades of Pleasure podcast is currently unsponsored and is brought to you by Los Angeles Sex Therapy and Last Collective in partnership with Shades Therapy and Shades of Non-Monogamy. To support our endeavor so we can continue to bring this pleasurable content, please visit our Substack at shadesofpleasure.substack.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time.